Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm going to lead us through some slides talking about badges, Badgr, and pathways, and then we'll jump right into Canvas and show you a couple of examples of what we're doing in Canvas and show you our new pathways integration with Canvas, about which we are very excited. So thanks again for joining us. We'll get started right now. So my name is Wayne Skipper, founder and CEO of Concentric Sky, a company that I founded 13 years ago. And we've grown over the last 13 years to be about 80 people here in Eugene, Oregon. And we think of ourselves as problem solvers, and we solve problems for some of the most prominent organizations in the world. We've built software for the World Bank, the United Nations, NASA, a host of organizations. Over 300 products have come out of Concentric Sky over the last 13 years. And we got involved in badging in 2015 when we were approached by the MacArthur Foundation to create Open Badges 2.0. And so I want to start talking about what open badges are, just so we're all on the same page, because the word badge gets overused quite a bit in the community. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. And the key takeaway is that a badge is not a digital sticker. So a lot of people think badge, they think, oh, it's just a gold star, a digital form of it, who cares, right? But that's really not correct. A badge is actually a portable data object. And so what we've done is we've taken the image format, PNG and SVG, and we are adding additional metadata into that image file. And you can see that data there on the right of this diagram. So you can see that we encode within that image the recipient, the issuer, any skills tags, alignment to standards. In K-12, you might have NGSS or Common Core, quite a few standards in higher ed, like NACE standards, other employment standards. Does it expire? Is there attached evidence? Is it endorsed by any organizations or accreditors? And these are fields that we've created in Open Badges that give us the ability to do a lot of really interesting things with these portable credentials of the future. So for example, we might use an open badge in higher ed to give somebody a welding certificate. We might attach to that welding certificate a video of someone doing a weld. And we might also include the rubric under which that evidence is assessed. And all of that travels together as a package, right? So what I like to say about open badges is it's an unfortunate name for a really excellent technology standard. And I think that you'll start to see the power of these things as they become more broadly used in the ecosystem over time. And so Badgr is a system that we developed originally to serve as the official reference implementation for Open Badges 2.0. It has since grown to be the world's largest open source digital badging platform, currently used by over 10,000 organizations in 38 countries. It's built by the lead developers of Open Badges 2.0. So we wrote the spec. We wrote Badgr to show people how to implement that spec correctly in their software. And then we've since built on that and turned it into something that's become quite a hot commodity in the badging space. You probably saw that we were selected as the native badging system for the Canvas LMS. And I'll show you some of the functionality that we bring to the table and why that decision made sense for everybody. We have an announcement coming out today with Mozilla. Mozilla was the originator of Open Badges technology back in 2011 and has played a central role in the community up until recently. So they are announcing with us today that they are shutting down the Mozilla Backpack and transitioning all users to Badgr. So Badgr will now serve that central role as the backpack of choice for people that wish to share their badges out of the platforms that create them. And at this point, we estimate there are over 1,000 different platforms and products which can create open badges for you. It's built into Moodle, it's built into D2L, it's built into Blackboard. We're now the native system in Canvas, and there are a host of other private companies that offer digital badging at various levels of functionality. So the thing about Badgr that makes it really interesting is our focus on interoperability. So, we are not just a company that built a product. We're a company that takes engineering very seriously, and we like to design elegant software and elegant technology solutions that will withstand the test of time. And we feel that we've done so with Open Badges and with some other standards that we're working on that I'll cover briefly, including one called Open Pathways. And our thinking with Open Badges in general is that it creates a common language for learning. So you can describe everything from a CPR certificate that expires to an afternoon as a volunteer worker, in a volunteer program. You can use the same language to describe academic accomplishments. You can use the same language to describe on-the-job training, right? We can describe continuing ed, PD, pretty much anything that can be connotated as a learning achievement by an individual can now be described as a badge. And so this language gives us the ability to build a portrait of the learner, which encompasses their entire lifelong learning journey. So now that we have a common language we can use to describe these learning achievements, we can break these pieces of information out of the traditional silos in which they resided, and we can put them in the hands of the learner for the learner to control. And you can see here with this diagram, the Badgr Backpack is the place where the learner curates the badges that they've obtained from various sources and can then share them out selectively as they wish to various employers for admissions and for other types of purposes yet to be designed. And of course, Badgr is taking over that central role as the backpack in the ecosystem. For us, the main thing about a badge that makes it interesting is that portability. And you'll see a lot of companies talking about interoperability, but a credential and student data is only portable if the student can get it out of the system. And that's a key thing to understand about what we're doing here, is that no student data is locked into our system. It belongs to the learner, and the learner can move it around at their discretion. So as we were working on open badges back in 2.0 back in 2015, we quickly realized that badges need quite a bit of more information to be intelligible. You have more than 5 or 6 badges. Well, suddenly the question is, well, what order do they go in? Right? Which one's first? Which one's last? Do I have to do them all? And these are questions that are challenging to answer without a data structure that can describe them. So we proposed a new standard called Open Pathways. And what Open Pathways allows you to do is to take badges from any system and stack them together. So you can stack a Moodle badge with a D2L badge, with a Badgr badge, with a Credly badge, with an Acclaim badge. Any open badge can now be stacked together in alignment with competency frameworks. So this allows you to not just stack badges, but to stack them across platforms and in alignment with frameworks, and to issue new badges based on rules. So this allows you to do some pretty amazing things. And I'll talk about a few of those here in this example, right? So this is a model community college curriculum out of California. And there are a number of things here that are interesting. So the first thing that's interesting is that this badge here on the left actually originates at a high school. So this is a badge that is the end badge of another pathway. And this kind of opens up the concept of stackability, not just of credentials, but of learning pathways. So what we've done with Open Pathways by making these stackable is create a system that allows you to have a pathway that begins in high school that ends with a badge, that then starts a community college or 4-year university pathway that ends in a badge, that starts a pathway at an employer that ends in a badge, and on through CE and TD. We now have a way of describing the entire lifelong learning journey of a learner in a platform-independent way, where the data is no longer locked into any one system. Right? That's part of the marvel of what we've done with Open Pathways, is that we've created these portable data objects, just like a badge is portable. Now the whole pathway that describes what a badge is and how it relates to other credentials is also now portable. And so by stacking pathways like this, we're able to do a number of amazing things, including like actually make manifest articulation agreements. So here you can see this AP badge offered by the high school, accepted for credit at the college. And then you can see that these top badges here are core curriculum to this associate's degree. And these, in this example, these are badges that come out of Canvas LMS. So there's a number of other interesting things here going on as well. So our school here is actually a small school. And our employers are telling us that our graduates are not coming out of our program with the skills that they need to get a job, the skills gap, as it's called. And these 3 skills here have been identified as core skills that our graduates are lacking. But the school is small, it doesn't have the ability to teach them. And I might argue that the school is already teaching them as part of their standard student learning outcomes. They may just not be communicating that to the student in a way that makes the student feel comfortable describing it. That's a separate matter. In this case, the school has decided that they need a badge from a third party that allows them to connotate this particular skill. So what they've done is they've gone out and they've looked at organizations that offer these credentials. They've assessed the pedagogy of the assessment, And they've determined that these credentials are acceptable to them and that they're willing to partner with these organizations. So they found 4 different organizations that offer a critical thinking badge. The student has to get one of those. It's up to the student. All the credentials are free. And the student, when they get any one of those 4 credentials, they satisfy this critical thinking element of the pathway. Now, this is a California program, so it's definitely making use of the New World of Work badges. New World of Work is a rather excellent 21st century skills framework that comes out of the community colleges of California. And so we're accepting these badges to satisfy this 21st century skills requirement. But in addition, what we've learned is that some of our graduates aren't able to operate in a lab setting, which is core to their work as biotech technicians and other jobs related to their degree. So what we're trying to do now is to teach them how to do things like use Google Docs, use Microsoft Excel. But we don't want to teach the students how to do those things. Microsoft does that, Google does that, and they offer badges for it. So rather than teaching the students ourselves how to do those things, we can just accept the official certifications from Microsoft and Google. So this allows us to build off of the credentials issued by other organizations, right? You no longer have to teach everything in a program. And so what you're seeing here in this example is credentials that span 11 different issuing organizations and 3 issuing platforms. Because what open badges essentially do is create interoperability. And the example I like to use for interoperability is like a power plug. When you go to plug something into the wall, you don't have to worry about how far apart those power pins are. You just plug it in, it just works. And that's what we've done with open badges, right? It no longer matters what system creates those open badges, because we have this technology standard, we know what's in the badge, we know how to manipulate it, and now we can stack them together across systems, right? This creates a host of new learning opportunities for learners, and also creates a lot of really interesting opportunities and functionality for institutions. So one other thing I want to point out about this is the idea of what a learner might share with a potential employer. So we'll posit a learner that has these first 2 badges on the left, working on this advanced microbiology certificate. And when they obtain that, they'll get this high value certificate. We'll say an associate's degree or CTE certificate. And for this example, we'll ignore the bottom part of this pathway. So my learner has 2 badges. What do they share with a prospective employer? You look at every other badging system in the world, and the answer to that question is 2 badges. You share the credentials you have, and that makes sense, right? But that doesn't really convey the meaning that the learner wishes to convey to the prospective employer, right? What the learner wishes to say is not, I have 2 badges. Because the employer has to look at those badges and say, well, are those the first 2 badges? The last 2 badges? Are these 2 of 10, 2 of 50? It's very difficult for an employer to understand a badge, which is why a lot of badging providers will tell you that you have to develop the badge in partnership with the employer so the employer can understand what it means. And there's some truth to that. And we also advise our partners to do the same. But you can do more than that, right? So now with open pathways, you have this ability to share pathways that aren't complete. So this learner doesn't have to say, oh, I have 2 badges. This learner can share the pathway, which shows the badges, shows that it's 2 of 3 badges, shows that a badge is in progress, and that the learner is going to get a degree at the end of it, because that's what the learner wishes to convey. Not that I have 2 badges, but that I almost have my associate's degree. That's the message. And so the badges are just the words in the sentence, right? It's the meaning, though, that matters. That's what we want to convey. So now the badges don't really matter. Who cares that the learner has 2 badges? What we want to communicate is they almost have their associate's degree, and here's where they are in that process, right? It changes the entire discussion of student progress from a snapshot of where the learner is today to where they're headed. Why are they showing me 2 badges? Oh, well, that's because they almost have their associate's degree, right? So essential change to the way that we think about what we communicate with potential consumers of credentials. And one other thing I want to point out about this particular pathway is that it results in 2 badges. So you have the main badge here, this associate's degree that is the ultimate badge, but then you also have this job-ready certification, which is issued when the learner has completed both their 21st century skills and their office skills. And this functionality of having multiple badges allows us to do fine-grained pathway matches across organizations. And this enables what we call competency-based hiring. So now we can say that this applicant is a 66% match for this job, not based on keywords, right? Because you might see the word Python on a resume. Is that the language or the snake? right? You have the semantic ambiguity of language, which makes it very difficult to understand whether engineering means the same thing from one institution to another, or from one person to another, right? So what we want are descriptions of competencies that we can actually use to get far more specific than we can get with just basic language. And so now with open pathways and their stackability, we can use this functionality to build data bridges between organizations that help us better understand articulation from K-12 to community college to higher ed, and from both higher ed organizations into employment. And so part of what makes this possible and really brings it to life is the idea that you have to be able to find the badges that are out there so you can build off of them. And so for this reason, we've created BadgeRanked.org. And BadgeRanked.org is the world's leading search engine for digital badges. We're currently indexing over 100,000 obtainable credentials from every major platform in the world. So you can go to BadgeRanked.org right now and do keyword searches for just about every badge issued by every party in the world. Now, we don't have them all, but we try to keep the system up to date, and we invite people to upload new badges. If your badges aren't included and you'd like to see them, just drop us a line and we'll make sure that they get included. Now, we've put BadgeRank into our Pathways tool, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. That allows you to actually find the badges of the world and include them on your pathways, which is extraordinarily powerful. And so with that, I will hop over into the software and kind of show you what we're doing here with Canvas. All righty. So what you're seeing here is the Badgr Backpack. And key thing to understand about Badgr is that it began as an open source project. So Badgr itself is actually maintained by a number of entities, including us. Obviously, we created the project and we lead the work, but we have contributors that include Microsoft, the government of the Netherlands, and a number of other prominent organizations. We just signed an agreement with the entire community college system of the state of Washington. And part of what attracted them to the platform is that they can make it better for their colleges and all colleges everywhere, right? So we're working as a community to improve what Badgr does for the benefit of all learners, right? And so Badgr contains the backpack functionality, which we've discussed here. You have the ability for a learner to see a badge, right? Once the learner is looking at their own view of a badge, they can print a certificate, right? And so we offer this functionality because not all learners have consistent access to the internet. We see this particularly in the developing world where internet access is spotty. So what we do is we offer a printed certificate with a QR code that ties back to the digital credential and its associated evidence. Now you can just print this off and put it in a folder somewhere. Later, when you have access to the internet, when it makes sense for you, you can look at this QR code and get back to this assertion page for your badge. And we also make badges shareable into a number of different systems, right? So you can actually grab a URL here, which represents the assertion of your badge if you want it that way, right? You can also share into common social networks. You can also embed the badge directly into an iframe, into a resume, or into any other system that you might want to use to include the badge. And we also include a verify link. And this is a pretty nifty bit of functionality. As I mentioned, we wrote the Open Badges 2.0 standard. Well, we also wrote the official validator. So this is the validator that everyone in the world uses if they wish to validate an Open Badges 2.0 assertion. So you can see that my URL is here. And the way we've designed the standard is that you can verify that a credential belongs to someone if you already know who they are. But you can't just grab a badge that you find on Twitter or on LinkedIn somewhere and see whose badge it is, right? So we've designed privacy into Open Badges from the very beginning. And so Mozilla uses this code, everybody uses this code. If they're validating Open Badges from any source, this is the way that you do it. And so you can share these badges. You can also group them into collections. And then we have various bits of functionality that are made possible for issuers, right? But Badgr is really a system that issues badges, right? What it doesn't do is necessarily trigger the issuance of those badges, right? And so badges are most useful when they're issued automatically in response to something that the learner has done. So one of the ways that a badge can be earned by a learner is by scanning a QR code. And so we have a system that attaches to Badgr that uses it to issue badges that allows a learner to scan a QR code with their phone and receive a badge. We use this in higher education for things like student orientation. Find the library, find the registrar. Those badges can stack on a pathway along with information that comes out of an LMS, right? So you can start to mix and match credentials from different sources with different levels of meaning to guide the student through real world learning experiences, right? You can gamify the entire process of learning, both inside and outside the classroom, and describe all of that learning in the same language, right? But you can also issue badges via something like Canvas, right? And so we have a rather excellent integration into Canvas. It is made available free for the last 2 years. And you can use Badgr for Canvas by, at the moment, installing the LTI, which takes 5 minutes, super quick, really, really easy to do. Happy to show anybody that, that wants to see that, you know, how we're doing it. I have it installed already here for my demo, but happy to follow up with anybody that has any questions. It's really super easy. You go into Badgr here, you can see app integrations, and you can actually look at information here on how to integrate with Canvas. Literally 5 minutes to do. So you saw that we announced with Canvas that Badgr is now the native badging system for Canvas. And what that means is that it's going to be turned on by default for all users of Canvas. Users can opt out if they don't want it or if they've selected another badging platform that they like for some reason. So it's available to everyone with the goal of helping them actually make use of credentials in a meaningful way because it adds very useful functionality into Canvas. So I'm just going to walk through what we're doing here. So in this particular course, this is my soft skills professional development course. What I've done is I've created a number of modules that assess these particular soft skills for educators. And then when I look at what Badgr does, then it takes those modules and allows you to associate a badge with them. So here I can look at all of the badges that I have, that I've created for this particular issuer, and attach them to that module completion. So now you can actually automatically issue a badge to somebody when they complete a module in a Canvas course. But more than that, you can also track badges that are earned outside of Canvas courses. Now, I should probably say that there are 2 levels of Badgr product in Canvas. There's the free product, and I'll describe everything that's available for free. And then beyond a certain point, we have what we call Badgr Pro, which is really designed for institutions. And that is a paid product that you can upgrade your Badgr installation to if you like. But you can issue with the free version of Badgr in Canvas an unlimited number of badges to an unlimited number of recipients. We're the only platform that'll let you do that, and there's just no limit on how many badges you can issue. We just want there to be badges in the world. So here you can see all of my respective modules. You know, I've tied these badges to them. You know, we've gone ahead and set up some demo student progress here in this course, which you can see. So you can see this progress of the learners, you know, as they are, you know, going through the system. And then we also make this available on a leaderboard that the students can also see. In this case, I will enable the leaderboard. And now you can see that students see a privacy protecting alias. Oh, Eddie doesn't want to be Laughing Beaver. That's fine. We'll change that. Now he's Tranquil Porcupine. Okay, Bob doesn't want to be Exuberant Ostrich. Well, that's fine, right? Now he's Cryptic Newt. So you can also regenerate the entire leaderboard at any time. Students see the alias. And this allows us to have privacy protecting gamification without the need for students to see each other's names. Now, the students do have the option to include their name if they choose, but by default, that is turned off. And so all of this functionality here is available for free as part of Badgr for Canvas. Turn it on, you get all of your objectives aligned to badges, and you get the leaderboard for free. So beyond that is Badgr Pro functionality, some of the most interesting of which is analytics. And so once you have enough badges that analytics makes sense for you, then you can start to look at who is issuing, who is receiving the badges, also the shares. In this case, we don't have any shares, but you can see who is sharing it to what social networks, how many views it's getting, that sort of thing. You know, histogram of badges completed in the course and the top awarded badges. You can dig into the badges and actually look at analytics on a badge by badge basis as well. So that is what it looks like to see Badgr Pro in a course. And that's all really exciting. In InstructureCon, we also announced Badgr Pathways as an integration into Canvas. And let me show you what that looks like. So here we have my soft skills PD course. As we've seen, it results in a course complete badge, right? And this is attached to this course. Well, let's go look at my other courses, right? So we're going to go look at my my PD for K-12 classrooms here. And so this is just another course that has another set of badges in it, right? So my first course was really focused on soft skills for teachers. This one is really more of a general PD course for teachers. But one thing you'll notice that's really interesting is that we are tracking this badge from the other course. And this is a bit of functionality that's made available in Badgr Pro, so it doesn't come for free. But this allows us to look at learner progress and see who's completed the other course right here on this system, right? And so now we can see who has completed what courses. And that is really interesting functionality if the only thing you have to track are things like completion badges. But where this starts to get really, really amazing is with our pathways integration, right? And so what you can see here is the same pathways tool that I showed you before. You can see the entire framework that we've created here. So here are all of my modules. Here is where my group is, and you can see here I don't have any, this is the group that is currently enrolled in this course. You can see how far along they are as a group to completing the badge. You can see here, this is my 21st century tree here with all of the associated modules. When the learners complete that, they've completed this element, just like from my previous example. And now you can see these badges from my second course. So the key takeaway is what the pathways system allows you to do is to stack badges across courses in Canvas. So now you can tie all of your courses together into one system of meaning and issue a badge at the end of that when students do things that span any number of Canvas courses. But it's not just Canvas courses, right? So you can actually include badges from other sources. So one thing that I've done here is I've added this badge. This is a badge from going to EDUCAUSE. And I'm sure a lot of us have gone to EDUCAUSE and you get a badge because your email address is on a list of somebody who went. Yay, what good is such a digital credential, right? I know lots of people that are almost embarrassed to share them. It's like, oh yeah, I went to a conference, so what? But now we can say, for our educators here, we would like them to go to a professional development conference, one that results in a badge. And so when they go to EDUCAUSE and they receive that badge from EDUCAUSE, that satisfies this element for them, right? So we can pull badges from systems outside of Canvas and build off of them with our pathways. And so now we have our PD, right? We have our 21st century skills, and we have badges that come from external events that our teachers are going to. We can pull all of these things together. When the learner has completed all of these based on the rules that we've set, they earn this professional development credential, which they can then share into their backpack or could start another pathway. So when we start to put together our professional development 2019 pathway, maybe the first step is that you did your 2018 professional development, because that's the stackability of credentials when you're using pathways. And so pathways is another paid product in Canvas. It's not something that we make available for free, but it is something that is reasonably priced, and the goal is to have people create more pathways. Because the idea with a pathway, and this is what the same pathway looks like in the pathway system in Badgr, right? The idea with a pathway is that it's stackable, right? So we covered that earlier. But for most badging systems in the world, the badge is the end of the story, right? You did the thing, you got the badge, yay. Go share it to LinkedIn or whatever, we don't really care. Here's your badge, right? Go do something with it. That's the end of the story, great, moving on. But for us, we don't feel like that is a good enough answer, right? Because there's this essential question in digital badging that everybody likes to dance around. Why would anybody want one? Why do you want a digital badge? What good is it, right? And so it's new, it's shiny, it's technology, it's great, but really, what does it do for my learners, right? And, oh, you can share it to LinkedIn and maybe you'll get a job, a better chance of getting a job is an insufficient answer in our minds. So for us, the badge is not the end of the story. The badge is the beginning of the story. Because what a badge does for me is that it opens new learning pathways. So I can actually look and see, I can show a learner every pathway in the world upon which their badges fall, right? So the badge is no longer the end of the story. The badge is the beginning of the story. The badge is the key that opens the door. The reason you want a badge is to go see what new learning pathways it opens for you. Is it accepted for credit in another state? Does it open another program at my institution? These are the sorts of questions you can answer when you think of the badge as the beginning of the story, because learning never stops. It happens throughout the entire life of a learner. And this allows us to show them new options that are available to them based on the badges that they hold. That's why you want a badge, because it opens new opportunities for you. And we feel like that's the right answer to the question, not, oh, you can share it to a social network. That's moderately interesting, right? So what this also does for institutions is create a new type of feedback loop, right? Because I can now say, this badge here is accepted by one of the California community colleges, for example, right? And so maybe you're issuing credentials to people. What do they do with them? Do you have any way of knowing if that got somebody a job? Do you have any way of knowing if another institution is accepting that learner based on the credential that you've issued, right? These are feedback loops that don't currently exist, except in rare cases at institutions. But now with the pathway system, we can actually show you who is using your badges and for what, right? So people talk about analytics of badges, and mainly what they show you is, how many times it was shared on LinkedIn, right? How many times did somebody look at it? That's kind of interesting if you think of a badge as simply a bit of marketing, right? What interests me though is, are my students getting jobs? Does this badge have actual value in the world? And can you show me that? And that's what we can show with our analytics, which are, I would say, quite interesting and oriented slightly different than what other people are currently making available. So I think I've covered most of what I have to say here with respect to Badgr and Canvas. You can see that it's a dead simple integration. We are renowned just for how easy it is to set up Badgr, how easy it is to use. Now you can see with Badgr Pro that you can also see the analytics right in Canvas. Like I said, we're adding new functionality every day to Badgr Pro to increase the value of that product. It's a very simple upgrade from Badgr in Canvas. You don't even have to change anything. And then Pathways is a new product that allows you to stack, not just across Canvas, right? You can pull in badges from Moodle, from badges from D2L, badges from any other system, and build off of them in Canvas. And we feel like this is extraordinary functionality that's really going to open a lot of doors for institutions. And this is why we think that what we're doing at Canvas is so important. So with that, I will open the floor for questions.
There's a few questions about adding the LTI install and how it will be available in Canvas automatically and when that will happen.
Great question. So adding Badgr in Canvas is super simple. As I mentioned, if you set up a free Badgr account, you come over under account and you look at app integrations, you click Canvas LTI. It will show you step by step what you need to do to set up the system. It's really, really simple. You copy these 3 pieces of information and you paste them into the fields of the same name in Canvas. Super, super simple. But once the system is enabled globally, then you won't have to do that at all. And so what we're doing right now is working on setting up international data centers. So we have data centers in the EU and Australia and Canada, each of which complies with the privacy laws of those regions. And you will automatically be directed to the appropriate data center when you sign in to Canvas, when it actually is turned on for you. And so that is something that we expect to happen this fall, as the data centers are online, as we work with Canvas to make sure that people are going to the right place so that their data is handled in a jurisdictionally appropriate way. So short answer is you'll have that automatically turned on for you by fall. Longer answer is you can just turn it on yourself today. It takes 5 minutes. And if you turn it on today, then there will be no effect when it becomes native. It's not like you have to redo anything at that point. So it'll just be on for you. You can start using it immediately.
A lot of questions about installing here we go, a question from Dima. Since it is possible to use a single badge across all courses, If a student got this badge in one course, will the student need to get the badge again in a second course?
Brilliant, brilliant question. And the answer to that question is no. So we have this ability here when you look at the objectives page, I'll show you here, to prevent duplicate badge awards, right? So this is something that we put in place for schools that tend to run, for example, like a MOOC that never stops, right? It's a continuous course. People are constantly going in, constantly coming out, receiving badges. So if you click this box, if the learner has already earned the badge that's associated with your module, they won't get it again.
How can we make our own badges? Is there a tutorial on Badgr?
There is. So we have quite a bit of information about that. Let's see, maybe we want to create our own badge here in Canvas, right? So we'll just come here and we'll say create new badge. So the most common thing that people do is upload an image that's been professionally designed. And that is, I would say, 99% of the time how people use badges. We do offer a really simple system that allows you to pick some colors, pick some graphics that go on it, make a badge, right? And then issue that badge with the 3 required fields here, right? So it's really this easy to make a badge if all you want to do is test it out. I can create my badge, there it is. Now if my learners create this, they will receive this credential. Generally speaking though, you'll want to create your badges in Badgr because you have access to more interesting fields, right? So when you create a badge here, you can do the same thing. We offer this ability to generate random in addition, right? Then you can give it a name, description and criteria are required. Here we are supporting Markdown, which means that you can actually give it some style that looks kind of like HTML. You can also include the evidence or the criteria that you might be linking to. You can also attach an alignment like it links to Common Core or whatnot, and you can also tag it with skills if you're looking for alignment with labor market information. And then in Badgr itself, when you go to award the badge, right, you can attach evidence. You can also do bulk awards directly in Badgr. This is the manual side of things, right? Canvas is an effective trigger for this. But this allows you to do things like issue badges to telephone numbers, which is something that is surprisingly useful in the developing world. So it really just depends on how you wish to give somebody a badge. But we do make that directly easy and simple in Canvas. Although, as I said, most organizations will, have a graphic designer design those badges. And we do have quite a bit of information available online about, how you should design a badge, what goes into it, and you're always welcome to reach out to us if you have specific questions. So we'll send out some links when we send out the recording of this webinar to some of our descriptive information and some of the guidebooks that we put together that explain how to use the system. And one other thing I wanted to mention while I was on this page is this notion of evidence, right? So with Badgr, what we've done is add the ability to not only attach evidence to the badge, right? You can actually describe your assessment of the evidence. And what that looks like for a learner is this, right? So you can see here's an example badge from Georgia Virtual School, one of our partners. You can see that they're linking out to the evidence which they control for FERPA reasons. They don't want to just make public, right? You just can't have that floating out there for anybody to look at. And then you can also see specifically what the student has done and the instructor's note about the evidence. The instructor can also upload additional information to support their assessment of what the student has done. You can link out to rubrics and whatnot. So in Badgr for Canvas, you'll notice you can also require evidence. And so what happens is that if you want evidence to appear, then before the learner can get the badge, they must submit the evidence, and that can be evidence that comes from Canvas or some external source. And that evidence is then tied into the badge, back to my original example of how you might want to give somebody a welding certificate that also links out to a video of them doing the weld. This is how you would require that programmatically in Canvas.
Here's the next one. I have about 200 plus teachers. I would like to participate in Badgr. How do I get them all signed up?
Well, super easy. So we do not require students to create Badgr accounts. We are unique in that regard. So when you set up your Badgr account, you set that up as an issuer, right? So you'll set up your issuer, generally the name of your school. If it's something you're doing on behalf of the school, we've seen it on behalf of districts or nations or corporations. You have a lot of freedom there. If you just want to do it for your classroom, you can do that too, right? So you can just set up an issuer. And then everybody that is enrolled in your course can earn a badge. So you set up a Canvas course, you enroll the people that in this case would be your teachers, who in this context are your students, and then you do your modules and your badge alignments. And then everyone that completes their modules gets the badges, and they never have to go into Badgr. So let's look at what this looks like from the student side. So for the student side, what the student sees when they see their badges is this page, which is currently under redesign, but it's called My Learning Path, which shows them the badges that are available to them and what they need to do to go get it. Oftentimes when we do this in Canvas, this is a link to the Canvas course where the badge comes from, right? So you can actually see what you have to do to go get it. You can see the badges that you have. And then if you have pathways installed, you can see your progress on the pathway. And then you can also see the leaderboard here. So for the teacher, they just automatically, I mean, in this case, the student, they just automatically get their badge. It appears right there on this page for them. They can download it from right here if they've earned it. And they can also share it directly to social networks right from this screen. They never actually have to go into Badgr at all as a recipient of a badge. So it's designed specifically like that. So nobody needs to go create more accounts, right? Everybody has enough accounts. So the only one that has to create an account is the instructor who's creating the badges and doing the alignments. No one else has to do that at all.
Are pathways part of the free or pro instance? Where are pathways created and defined?
Great question. So are pathways part of the free offering? No, they are not. Pathways is a separate tool that we charge for. So you'll notice here it is a separate LTI. It currently says Badgr Pathways. It will, in the next iteration, just simply say Pathways. And Pathways is a separate product that we charge for. We have to turn it on for you. It does not come with Badgr Pro, although we're thinking about maybe merging those two things in a distant future. But at the moment, for various technical reasons, it is a separate product that you have to pay for. And pathways are created here in the pathway system, right? So if you go to Badgr, at the very top here, you will see Pathways as an app. You can also, when you create an issuer, right? Let's say, here's my issuer. You can also go to Pathways for that issuer. So here's my test issuer I've created in Badgr. I want to go make some pathways for this issuer. Now we make pathways free up to 100 learners. And this is a special that we're running through the end of 2018 to encourage people to do pilots. So if you have less than 100 learners and you want to make a pathway for them, you can just do that for free. We're not going to charge for that. Beyond 100, it starts at $1 per learner and decreases from there. And you can find the pricing on our website. We'd also be happy to send it to you if you have a question. So let's say, I have an issuer here. I don't even know which issuer I want to work with. We'll say Badgr University. So here I am in Badgr University. You can see this is the pathway that was created in my demo, and you can kind of see various things about it. Why don't we actually go and create a new pathway? We're going to create a new pathway. And this is my test pathway, and here it is, right? So I want this pathway to result in a badge. So I will click Completion Badge, and this shows me all of the badges that I am authorized to issue. Can't issue other people's badges, right? That kind of goes without saying. So here we'll say this is the badge I want to give, right? This is my badge that indicates that my learner has completed a thing, right? We like this badge. We're just going to reuse it, even though it may not be applicable to this case. We could also come over here and create a badge. So let's go into our Badgr University issuer. University, right? We will create a new badge. We're going to create it random. We're going to call this the cold calling badge, right? We'll just say example badge, right? So just filling out the minimal information we need to create a badge, right? So boom, there is my badge. I now have a cold calling badge. So I can come over here into Pathways. So maybe I don't want this badge. Maybe I want to look at other badges. So I can refresh my list here, see my cold calling badge, and add it right in. And this badge is now issued when this pathway is completed. Well, what does a learner have to do to complete my pathway? Well, we'll say that they have to complete my course 1, right? And then they have to complete my course 2. And then we will create badges for those in Badgr and attach them to modules in Canvas. Now, when the learner completes those badges, then they can actually earn this badge automatically. So the authoring interface for the system here is in the Pathways tool itself. And then you will see this when you log into the Canvas and you look at your pathways here. All right, so we could also update this pathway if we say want to add something new. Say we want to add a new form of PD or something. You would update that over in this system over here. So one thing I want to show you while we're in here is this ability to pull badges from multiple systems, right? So I want to add a required badge, and that's a badge that the learner has to provide in order to complete this element. And these are all of the badges that I have, and you can see these are all badges from InstructureCarn, the carnival-based annual conference that we had just about a month ago for Instructure. And these are all badges that were related to the scavenger hunt game. And these are my badges, and I have some other badges in here. But I'm interested in looking at other people's badges. And so in particular, I'm interested in looking at badges for digital fluency, right? This is a 21st century skill that we don't teach, but that we think is important and we want to make sure that people have. So we can now see, we can search BadgeRanked right here in the tool. So we can say, oh, look, this is a digital promise badge. This is the description. We can actually link out to it. We can see all the criteria under which it's issued. Oh, that's good. That looks like a good badge. I'll accept that badge. Great. If the learner can provide this badge, then they can complete that element of the pathway in Canvas. Doesn't matter who issues the badge. Doesn't matter what platform the badge comes from. It could be a Badgr badge, Moodle badge, D2L badge, Accredited badge, Claim badge. Doesn't matter. And there can be multiples, right? So we'll say we want that one, but we also want this great badge from New World of Work because they do great work around 21st century skills. So now the learner can provide one of those badges. And if they can provide one of those badges, then they can complete the pathway, and that could impact all of their progress through courses in Canvas as well.
We seem to have answered a lot of questions, although we did get quite a few about how to define an issuer and what an issuer is. So that's the concept.
Okay, well, let's just go ahead and do that right now. So we're going to create a new issuer, right? And an issuer is generally a something that you, an issuer is like an entity that gives the credential. So we're going to call this my, College of Education, right? And this could be the college at my school. This could be, anything. This could be my classroom, right? So this could be, my particular classroom. It depends on, if you're issuing credentials on behalf of your institution or just yourself, right? Is how you want to set it up. Then you have to have a verified email address and then a description, all right? And that's all you need to do to create an issuer. Now, once you have an issuer, you can create your badges. We've already been through that process. Super easy. All right, we're just gonna grab this. Create your badge, right? And then you can come over into Pathways and you can actually find your issuers, right? So you should be able to just refresh this list, see my College of Education right here, and start creating pathways for it. So really, really extraordinarily simple and quick, setting up issuers, setting up pathways, dead simple. And then obviously when you go to award the badge, you can do a bulk award if you have, say, a bunch of students that have already completed a thing and you want to catch them up. And all of those badges also appear on pathways as well.
Can an individual teacher pull in badges from elsewhere?
Yes. Anybody who's authoring a pathway can pull in any badge from any source.
Is it possible to subsume one issuer's badges into another issuer? Use case, teacher starts, goes great, other teachers adopt, and the school decides to make it institution-wide, or a school starts and the district wants to take over.
Yes, I would say multiple ways that could be handled depending on the specifics of the use case, right? So when we have an issuer, we have staff. And so you can just add new people via email and give them different levels of permission. Are they an owner, which means they can delete it, right? Are they an editor? That means they can add new badges. Or are they a staff member, which means they can only issue the badges that are already in existence? And so you could add your colleagues to this issuer and allow them to issue badges on behalf of it. You could also delete yourself. And if you did that, then you could basically transfer control of that issuer to your district or somebody else. There are other ways to do it as well. So for example, we just ingested Canva badges, which had issued about 500,000 badges in Canvas. And we were able to do that and keep all of the badges valid, right? So we can pull in badges from other failing badging systems or badging systems that aren't maintained anymore and maintain all of that validity. We could use that same functionality to move badges from one to another if we needed to move them, say, like out of the US into GDPR compliant context or vice versa.
Can you comment a little bit on the 100-level user limitation for pathways, Badgr pathways?
Certainly. So we're asked to comment a little bit more on the 100-student limit for pathways. So you can create a pathway that subscribes up to 100 students. So in Canvas, that would mean you have up to 100 students in a course. Most courses don't have that many unless they're MOOCs. We're not hard and fast about that rule. If you have 101 or 105, we're not going to turn it off or anything like that. If you start to use a significant number, we will reach out and say, you know, you need to start paying us based on the license. But in general, we try to make it as open for people as possible. So you can set it up, try it for 100 users, try it for 105 users. We're not going to give you any grief about that. You know, you get up to 120, 130 users, you got a bunch of people going through it, then, you know, obviously it is functionality that we charge for. But our goal at the moment is to create as many pathways as possible so we can surface those to other learners. And this is why we're making it free up to 100 users through the end of the year. And that is 100 total users. So that is the number of people that could potentially be awarded a badge in a course, not the number you actually gave the badge to.
One more question here. As an instructor on Canvas, can I see which badges a student got in previous courses that they took that I did not teach?
Excellent, excellent question. And so we're working on that functionality now. So you'll notice for your account, right, you have information over here about yourself, right? So you actually have badges that appear right here. And so this is where you can see all of the badges that you have earned across all of your courses, but this is your personal view of the badges. So what we're working on with Instructure is trying to add the badges to the actual profile for the user. And they don't generally allow things to be added to the profile because they've had difficulty with that in the past. But we're working on a system that will allow any educator, like a teacher that teaches any course that a student is enrolled in, to see all of the badges that they have in Canvas across all courses. And we hope to have that functionality in place by the fall. So it looks like we're about out of time. We do have a hard stop here in another minute. So I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for your time and your interest in Badgr. Please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to us at badgr@concentricsky.com. We have, help channels. We're definitely happy to help you set it up and play with it. We really are interested in your feedback. And if you think of anything that we can do to help make it a better product, please let us know, because we're really interested in helping to facilitate you and the success of your students. And with that, I say thank you and have a nice day, everyone.